Oh, okay, here we go.
Yeah, we're going. All right. There's a moment of silence for the ones we lost. Hey, everybody! Welcome to another episode of the Super Suck Hour, starring, of course, the Super SUCKLORD at your service, motherfucker. Pay me. Special guest in the house tonight, the esteemed and legendary JK5, Mr. Joseph Arialoy.
What's up, everybody?
J-Corp in the house, sweating it up. That's why it smells so nice in here. Ooh, bumped up to the major leagues, Mr. Meg Spector. All right. Okay. Sparkles McCheesy is in the house.
Another big reveal.
Scratch that, rewind it.
No, we're gonna leave it in. And Nasty Neil. Everybody's in the house, ready to contribute to this really important, seminal cultural event known as the Suck Hour. Okay, as we do, you know, it's like we like to run through, you know, our roster of peoples. You know, the Suckadelic lore is long and it's expansive and extensive, and I'm so fucked up, I don't know how I'm gonna fucking get through this episode. But
are you really, man?
I'm stuttering, yeah, and it's only number 2.
Stay center, man.
Stay
Hold it
center.
together. Hear me, baby?
Got it.
Hold it
I remember my first beer.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're reaching deep back into the Friends and Colleagues archive to pull out this specimen over here, this big, happy-faced, super adorned individual who's been part of the Suckadelic tapestry. He had no life before. No life at all.
Not
since
none whatsoever.
2001
Not
or
since
2.
Go to 99.
Yes, exactly. Is that where I met you?
Yeah, I think that's where we met for the first time.
We're one of those Star Wars friendships. The reason why we're
true.
friends is because of Star Wars. Because of Star Wars. I mean, we were both in the scene. The downtown, Lower East Side scene, late 90s, early 2000s.
I was in the suburbs, man.
Yeah, but you were coming in.
I was.
You're
coming
okay.
into the
Let's
city a lot.
just okay. And we
You can tell that story if
We
you want or
met,
not.
but just like your background, you're some nice Italian boy from North White Plains, right? Raised by some nice Italian people. Although you are adopted, and you have a fantastic story about your origin and your birth, which we'll cover.
Okay.
But your background is you grew up in a nice provincial.
Acculturated, really Italian, suburban,
Guinea
clannish. Yes, super Ginzoville. Yes, clannish,
Ginzoville.
tribal. Yeah,
but
man.
from the beginning, you were a freak and a weirdo.
I was adopted at 5 days old, man. Yep.
But you
And
were put into
raised
this
by
very
that
sort
family.
of provincial situation. You had a
Yes.
very nurturing extended family.
Yes.
But as far as you just following in that tradition, it was not meant to be. You were one of these weird astro child things that, right? And
Yeah, man.
you became,
I would say
you
so.
know, a bit of a weirdo, and you became
I think I just was.
Yeah,
I
you-
think I didn't really become anything.
Well, yeah, you was. You were the
Yeah,
same thing you
yeah.
were since day 5.
It's true. Since day one.
And your first excursions into weirdness was the tattoo thing, right? You were a tattoo person, right? It was like, well,
You're
right?
jumping way ahead in the chronology.
Am I?
I think so.
Well, I'm just
I didn't get tattooed till I was 23, man.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
I thought I was 5 days old at this point.
I'm just saying. I don't know what you're. I don't know. Do we really want to hash out your
No,
fucking
no,
middle school years?
absolutely not.
It's
It's up
like
to
that's
you.
when I first met you
Okay,
around the
we're back to
Lower
that.
East Side.
Okay.
You were a
We're contextualizing how we
yeah.
met. Okay.
Yes,
I
how
don't
we
know
met.
if you know this, when he brings someone on the show, he only shares the portion of his story that directly intertwines with his own life.
Of course, it
so-
should be self-referential. Absolutely.
Right, or just I'm trying to like, why are you? How do I know you?
Yeah,
you know,
of
we
course.
get into the, you know, it branches out, but it's just like, but I'm just trying to give like a brief overview of
Yes.
you. I'm sure you had a remarkable junior high school childhood. I spent a lot of time in your childhood home.
True.
We're gonna cover that, and I actually tapped deep into your childhood experience because you gave me all your childhood toys to do with as I please.
I did.
And I sodomized them.
There you go.
But I guess I'm just trying to say, like, you grew up in a really normal world, and you're not a normal.
Strict conservative,
Yeah.
Republican, Italian,
You can tell.
So
suburban,
what were some of the early
supportive and loving, but
what were the early indicators that you were a fucking freak?
the early indicators?
Yeah.
They became
Like I'm saying, like you
sodomizing
like you
stores.
became a tattoo artist. That's a thing, right? Like,
Yeah, 23 years later, yeah, man. I mean,
but-
I started drawing as soon as I could hold a crayon. I was obsessed with drawing. I was sensitive and shy in certain ways. I was considered a real nerd.
You love Star
real
Wars.
alien, real misfit. Love Star Wars, yeah. Yeah.
You were one of those.
Changed
You saw Star Wars in the
life.
theater, right?
25 times that summer.
Right. So
Yeah,
you
man.
were
1977 when I was 7 years old.
Yes. Okay. Me too.
It's
Yes.
the
We have
perfect
that.
age,
We
man.
have that in common. Yes. The perfect age.
We were the perfect age.
We were the perfect age, and it's still a thing. And we're gonna go way deep into that.
So still.
But I
fun.
mean, I guess maybe I'm just extrapolating. But like you becoming like a tattoo person was sort of, you know, when was like a big break from what your background was. Yes or no?
Yes.
And
Yes.
you, I mean, were you in, where were you? You said you were 23 when you first got into this.
I got
shit?
into tattooing
So
when
what
I
were
was
you
at
into
RISD.
before that? What was made you weird before that? Because being into tattoos is fucking weird.
Well, let's see. It was like hip hop and metal in grammar school, and then a lot of punk and new wave in high school, and then
this was not
I was
normal.
really bullied all through grammar school and high school, but I was really athletic. I played basketball. I was on the tennis team. I was swimming. I was like painting on everyone's denim jackets, from the graffiti kids to the metalhead kids.
That's what the nerds do when they
And
go
this-
to jail. They win with their drawings.
Yeah, man. That's the only thing that would ever save me if I was ever in the clink.
Right.
Yeah.
When I was in jail, that's what I was doing for everybody. Drawing all the, like, cards for the...
Yeah,
It's a
Girlfriends
survival
and shit.
technique.
It's not a lie. It was mentioned on the hit classic show Work of Art, The Next Great Artist.
Yeah, Mike too.
Seminal piece.
Yeah, it was the seminal classic.
A subject you're an expert in.
Oh yeah, or else how would I know that?
Okay, but we're not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. That's been
Good,
well
good,
documented.
good.
There's plenty of other rabbit holes.
Just
wormholes,
curious.
Well,
Yes.
the
rabbit
first
holes,
time I
black
became
holes.
aware of you was this book you made called Subconscious Thesaurus Rex, right? Which was like,
You fucked that up good, dude.
really, what's it called?
Subcontio Thesaurus Nex. Rhythmically pronounced like Tyrannosaurus Rex, but subconscious thesaurus and
Always one with the
next.
wordplay, you were.
yeah.
Always one with that.
Yes.
Changing the words
Nice
around,
Yoda-ism
giving it
right
meaning.
there.
Yeah, okay, good for you. You're brilliant. I'd met you a few times out and about. Like I think one of the first times I met you, I was DJing at the Good World bar.
Yeah,
Remember
man.
that
That was
place?
the first time I met you.
On Orchard Street. It was like this old Chinese barbershop on the dead end of Orchard Street that had been turned into a bar, and I was
That was a
DJing
cool spot at
there
the
for
time.
some fucking reason, playing vinyl. And this quack, this creature, this guy's covered head to toe in tattoos. Somehow I started talking to him, and the subject of Star Wars came up. And this motherfucker wouldn't shut the fuck up. And like, I thought I was, I was like the godfather of Star Wars in the Lower East Side. Like, you didn't get to be about Star Wars down here unless you had my okay. So this guy shows up.
And I'm
he's-
meeting this megalomaniac
yeah,
for
but
the
he's
first time
so.
that
I
night.
know I was probably such a dick. I mean, I was a
You
dick.
were a dick.
I was a dick to fucking to Hanksy back in like 2013. Think about 2000.
He was an asshole to me too.
One, what kind of asshole I must have been.
It was like 2000 or 2001, yeah.
Something
When
like
did
that.
he get nicer?
When he
It
met
took,
you.
it took a long time. I was angry. I was
just got
fucking
more
mad,
of a-
and it was.
You know,
You just have to get to know him.
You were just too nice for my taste. You were so earnest and sincere and open and friendly, and I was just like, this guy has no edge whatsoever. Fuck him. I don't give a fuck if he
No
likes Star
edge
Wars. This guy
whatsoever.
is just whatevs. I don't need to
You
know.
passed me off as a
Whatevs.
kook, to quote the book.
Yeah, I don't need to know. I don't need to know him. I don't need to know
Some
him.
overly earnest, overly tattooed,
He's from the
ick.
suburbs. Yeah,
That's
it's
what
just
you
like
called
whatever. I don't need him. But
which was so entertaining and hilarious.
yeah, I know
man.
you loved. I was putting on a show for you. But sometime in the future, I was chilling at
Rostar Studio.
Rostar. This guy Rostar. He's a famous artist. All right. I was up
When
at
is he
his.
coming on the show?
He had a
He's a good
studio
friend of
on
mine.
Eldridge and Delanton. I was up there. I used to hang out up there with him and KR. And we used to just fucking bullshit. And he had this book, this fucking Subcontio Thesaurus Next thing.
call it
whatever
Subcon, man.
Subcon. And I was reading this, and it was like it's basically just a thick reproduction. of your-
432-page hardbound
sketchbook.
volume.
It's a sketchbook. It was like a lot of marker drawings and sketches and full page things and pencil drawings and some of your kids' work, just like
Yep.
a compendium of all your drawings.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is amazing. It was all this weird inverted Star Wars shit. It was all the same type of shit I was trying to do, just like Wacky Packs meets Star Wars meets just like religious shit. It was just like this huge conflation of just like all this crazy, excellent Star Wars shit and all this. It was layered, and I was like, this is amazing.
Thank
And I
you,
was like,
man.
I love that book so much. And I was like,
Thank
I
you.
cannot wait to meet the guy that made this.
Oh, the guy from before.
And then I don't remember
He
exactly.
didn't make the connection for a while. Actually.
Somehow I figured it out,
You
and
didn't
then I
know
was
I'm
all
the
about you. You know, then I was all about you, and it was like, you know, I don't remember. Maybe it was like at A Life or something like that, or
They started carrying my book in
the
'99.
Go-To show.
Yeah.
I somehow met you, and then in 2002, I had curated.
No, we met because you discovered the work and wanted me in that Star Wars celebratory.
Yeah, that's right. I was doing
theme go-to
I was
show,
doing a Star Wars
and
art
I was
show.
blown away by Bill's work from that visual virus book that Shepard Fairey curated at the time. And Bill and I saw.
Yeah, he was fucking with all kinds of Star Wars shit too.
But no one else was in this creative, ill, bugged out, hip hop tinged
Yeah,
kind of
so
way.
anybody
and I was
that-
just stoked to see that you guys were doing that too.
Right,
And
so
I had a tattoo shop in the suburbs.
Yeah,
at
I'm
the
the
time.
type of person where like I'm putting together curating this Star Wars hip hop graffiti, you know, street culture shit show, and there wasn't that many people fucking with that shit. So it was
No.
like, I need whoever is doing this.
Bill's
So
shit blew me
get
away,
me the
man.
guy that made that fucking subcon book. Hook me up. I forgot. Maybe I asked Rostar. Maybe I asked somebody. Introduce
Ro
me
and I
to
were
that guy.
friends through Houston.
And then you showed up, and I was like, oh.
That motherfucker.
Oh, this guy. But I was like,
That
okay.
overly earnest,
Yeah,
overly
but nah, I
tattooed
was like,
hate.
by then it was fine. And the thing is,
I wrote him off as a kook.
no, but the thing is, it's like,
what
you
he
know,
called me.
it's like, you know, I'm into this shit. And
Of
it's like,
course.
it didn't take very long to get past all that shit. So we did
It's
that
a
show.
rich origin story,
we
man.
got,
I love
we
our
got, we
origin
did that
story.
show. You made some drawings. You drew on the first graphat.
Yes,
very
with Jose
orig-
Parla.
Jose Parla, known as
Who's-
Ease at the time.
And now
But
he's
yeah.
just
Yeah,
on
he's
a
a fucking
profound
made-
ascended level.
Yeah, I hate him. I'm
Super
jealous.
inspirational. Can I get another beer, man? Is
Fuck
that
him. Oh yeah.
possibility?
Do you mind grabbing us a beer, please? A cold one. So that was it. And then I don't remember what exactly happened, but you know, this was back in the day when
Thank you very much.
When A Life had their store on Orchard Street.
Yep.
And
they
were,
started carrying my book in
They were doing
99.
art shows, and they were carrying your book. And I guess somehow you convinced them. And this is a place that had done shows with like Ryan McGinnis and Shepard Fairey, Todd
Rostar.
James, Espo, like Rostar's major dudes. And somehow you convinced them to give you a show.
They carried my book. I was going to a lot of openings. I was taking the train in from the suburbs and getting to know a lot of
And you
downtown
were a
artists.
shameless
and I knew a lot-
campaigner.
To a degree, in my own way, yeah. I was like blown away by the humanscape of the artists.
And you were just like, hey, I do
downtown,
this.
and
Can I have a
what
show
A-Life
here?
embodied, and Matt Houston, who created his own similar faceted nexus called Houston in Seattle, which was what A-Life was, but to the northwest and the west, kind of the first of its kind. He opened it in '99, and yeah, that's how it all converged. That's how all the relationships.
Yeah, but it was
converged.
just so funny because you kind of steamrolled the A-Life guys. You were just so nice and
think
so
so?
persistent that they just finally said okay, you know. And then
Maybe.
I
was
saw the
persistent, that's
opportunity
for
because
sure.
I was like, fuck,
I
should-
vibed really hard with Tony. I grew
He
up
was
with
on the
kids
show.
Oh, amazing! Awesome, I want to see it. Tony Arcabascio.
You didn't watch it?
I haven't seen it yet, man.
Fuck you. It's like you have kids or something, right?
Maybe. I have a 7 and a 4-year-old. Yes.
Oh god.
But so yeah, there was just a lot of tiny world shit. Just a lot of special people in common between me and the A-Life crew and Matt Houston and the artists they were showing and my book being there, and just really wanting to have a show there. I just thought it was a really special new embodiment of a space and a gallery and the retail facet and the meetings upstairs. It was mystical, man. It was,
that was a mystical place.
It was a really
And this was
it
when the
a
Lower
special
East Side
spot.
was like first like opening up, and it's like like that was like you could actually get away with having something like that on Orchard Street. You know,
Yeah,
a fucking
man.
storefront
That's
on
what
Orchard
it
was
was.
like $1,500 or whatever. You know, he said it was. It was like unbelievable. You know, like what you could do there. This was when Recon and 360 and all
Think
those
of
other
the square
places were
footage.
still
Think
there.
of the dimensions of A-Life.
It was
man,
fucking
on
massive.
Orchard.
So somehow you managed to railroad them with kindness into giving you a fucking show because they had your book or whatever. And I was like, all right, you know.
And I was coming down and hanging out a lot. Yep. Ro and I were really tight.
And
He had
I
a
saw
studio
your
on Delancey.
vulnerabilities. I saw your vulnerabilities. And I was like, this
course.
guy is like a 2D artist.
With infrared vision.
Yeah, this guy's a 2D artist, but there's like windows in there. There's a lot of shelves in there. Like, what's he gonna do with that? It's like, how about this? You know
How
what?
did that conversation start?
I'll make a toy because I wanted to get in on
Oh,
the
word,
action.
okay,
I
yeah,
wanted in on the action,
He wants to
and
know
you were
every
there.
action.
Of course.
I was a horrible, misanthropic, evil, terrible person who was angry at everybody, and you were this big, nice, friendly guy that was used his nice and friendliness to get his show. So it was like, I'm gonna get my hooks.
My
in this
work had nothing to
motherfucker.
do with it. Let's
Yeah,
just
maybe
delineate
that, but I mean, it's like you
Let's
work.
just delineate
I mean,
that for
but
this
it
prick's
did.
sake.
But it did.
I
But
know,
I
I
mean,
know what
like
you're
you know,
saying,
you were
dude. I know
persistent
what you're
about it. You were
saying. I
persistent
was.
about it, and you were so
I
you were
was.
so blissfully
I wasn't living
naive
in the city, man. I was
about
just
how to be
getting
cool
exposed
about that kind
to
of
that
shit.
tapestry. You
Yeah,
know,
but you
in my
conv-
own way, and I produced all that work in the fucking country, 2 hours north. It didn't matter
Yeah, I was
geographically,
there,
but all that
motherfucker.
energy. I know, but I'm just saying, like, I was persistent for those reasons.
Right. So I was like, you need an action figure for the show. You need a toy. You need shit on your shelves. You need shit on the windows. Why don't I come up for a couple of days and help make some 3D representations of like your drawings?
Big
That'd be a
mistake.
cool idea. And you were like, yeah, cool, whatever. Yeah, bring it on. And then it wound up being this like 4 month, like
6 months.
Well, it
It was a long time, dude.
It's an
I produced work for a
excursion.
full year for that show. And I feel like the fraction of time, chronologically, that you were a part of it, which was insane.
it was 4 months.
And like, okay, 4 months.
My part was 4
I'm a bad
months.
measure of linear time.
I'm just saying, I
Whatever.
went up to your house in North White Plains. Your parents had given you this
I
two-story
just got divorced. It
You
was
got
the
divorced.
apartment I lived in until I was 7.
Yeah, and you emptied it out.
Incidentally, coincidentally, the year Star Wars came out, that summer, and then we moved up the street, and that's where my parents still live.
Yeah, well, it all comes back to Star Wars, doesn't it?
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes it does.
No, it's nuclear.
So
It's
we
central.
holed up in there, and you had like all these canned goods in the kitchen.
Yeah, man.
Cans of beans. And
Recently
we just locked her
divorced,
in the house.
bachelor style, bare bones, loving Italian parents, just keeping me alive, keeping me fed. Yeah, that was
That's
a rough
nice,
time,
isn't
man.
it?
It was a crazy chapter.
So we made a shitload of artwork.
I gave you all of my Star Wars toys, Play School, Playmobil,
All
shit
your
from the
Fisher
late
Price,
60s,
all your
all
Girder
through the
panel.
70s, up to Smurfs that I got at all the Hallmark stores in the early 80s to destroy, dissolve, sodomize, as you love to say, and completely deconstruct and then reassimilate and recreate in the form of this whole new mythological celebration
No, you are a nice guy.
of everything we grew up with. What?
You are a nice guy.
Hey, thank you.
No, but I made good shit with that. I mean, the thing was, that was great because we locked ourselves in the house. It was just 2 men in a house for months.
It was this
just like riffing on
You
each
called
other.
it a creative sweatshop.
Yeah, it was a creative sweatshop. I mean, I made zero money off of that thing.
I'm sorry I'm quoting the book, but
I've never done anything
your
like
essay
that.
in my book is so moving and hilarious.
Tell us.
And entertaining.
Tell us all about it.
You use your words. and
No,
then
I don't
chime
remember
in.
what I said about that shit. I
You
just
told the story. You told the story that we're like piecing
it's
together.
a story
here.
I'm trying to tell now.
I know.
But that was nice, and we made a lot of crazy shit. I made my first resin toy. The Eno was the first
With Charlie Becker.
with Charlie Becker in the
What up,
195
Charlie
Christie building, the building that I had my studio at
Yeah.
for 8 years when Charlie was
And
there.
I was blown away with those facilities. And
Yeah,
that
we
operation
made
between
that was
you
my
and
first
Charlie.
mold making project in 2003. Haters, and
Yeah,
we
2003.
made your shit, and we took over A Life.
Limited edition action figure at
And then
50 of
Jeffrey
them.
Deitch came around and was like, "This is great." And then he made a giant installation in his gallery with our work, and then we became millionaires, and now we're in the Guggenheim. That was the plan, wasn't it?
And then we woke up and we're still aspiring to that.
You had that one meeting with
Thing
Jeffrey
in a million
Deitch, and it's
new
like, you know
forms.
what? I think I should take it by myself. Like after the show, like Jeffrey
did
Deitch
have a
wanted-
meeting with him.
and you specifically
He-
told me not to come.
Did I?
Yeah, because you thought I was going to be a dick to him.
Well, you probably would have been.
Did we get a show at Deitch Projects?
We didn't. Do you think we would have if you were there?
I guess we'll never know, would we? We'll never know.
That's hilarious. Touche, homie.
But it's fine. We still actually have
Touche.
all of that work.
No, he just put me on the spot. He was like, "What would you do with the entire space if I gave you carte blanche?" And
What
I
we
just
did at A Life,
couldn't
but 10
articulate
times
it in
as
a
big.
fucking elevator speech, right?
We'd make like a whole kitchen
There was a lot of
refrigerator.
potential
We're
there,
gonna
a
go
lot
push
of
with the
potential.
food stuff and just
The
make.
forces just weren't aligned at the time.
You should have just said, "Come along to the meeting. I could use your help."
I'm not gonna say I regret it, but it would have been different if Morgan was there.
Fortunately there's still time. So that's
Yeah,
that's
of
our
course.
that's our origin story. That's how we met, and we've never really worked together since then.
No, not officially.
We made that
didn't
one
really
Mishka
produce
figure.
in a collaborative way since.
Yeah,
then,
no,
but-
actually, to be honest with you, the bitterness that I came away from that with started the Suckadelic bootleg enterprise. because like I mean
You
like
quoted that in the book too.
listen, I worked my ass off on that show. I had a great time. I fucking loved it. I loved working with you. One of the best people I've ever collaborated with. Just like
Same here, man. It's
the
mutual.
endless flowing of ideas and just your focus and your concentration and just like your idealism was all just super inspiring to me, and I love that. And if I could just
Thank
do
you.
that, where I could just like not worry about money and just go somewhere and just make art for art's sake, you'd be one of the guys I'd be doing it with, for sure. But at the end of the day, we came up against the harsh reality of things. It's like we made this big show. You sold some of your work.
Mm-hmm.
None of the sculptures, none of the things that I made. The toys sold, but whatever. Just like none of it sold, and I came away with no money, and there was no follow-up to
But
that
I feel
show.
like the experience and the response collectively was a game changer, man.
I don't know. It didn't change my game at all. It changed your game because you were the headliner. I didn't even have my name on that show. That was a JK5
I'm not talking
show.
about either of our ego-driven or specific individual games. I'm talking about what that show embodied conceptually.
Nobody
what we
gave a
did
fuck.
with the work.
No, not enough people gave a fuck
Not
about it.
enough
No, the
people
work
gave a
was
fuck?
great. Yeah, I mean, do people? Yeah, I felt like it didn't.
You don't think people love that show?
They loved it, but it never. There was no build on it.
Do you think
there
it was
no
ahead of its
follow-up.
time?
I have no idea, and I'm not going to comment on that. I just think it was what it was. I mean, I had a personal reaction to that because I thought it was a great show, and I thought we had arrived with this show. Like, now we're the guys. We're on the scene. We did this great show. The opportunities are just going to flow one after the other after this, and absolutely nothing happened for me. And I was like, kind of left like, why the fuck am I doing this shit? And then I was determined to make a toy. And I was so upset, with just like, I don't want to make this happy, colorful, celebratory JK5, everything is beautiful
I'm
shit.
so not just that
Fuck
one-dimensional
you.
dude.
But that at the time, that's what I was on
know.
some super idealism shit, and it
being
was
a
like,
little-
that was my attempt to like show what I could do to the art world and look at all this great, look how awesome and just positive and celebratory this is, and it didn't materialize into anything, and at the end of it I was just fucking broke, and I had no moves to make, and I was just like, I had a reason to make a toy, and I made the ugliest, black and whitest, super villainous shit, like fuck all of that shit. And I actually took one of the figures that I made from the show, the Dooku Boba Fett, and just said like, you know what, fuck all this trying shit, I'm the Sucklord now. Fuck you, I'm a fucking Sith Lord bounty hunter. Here's the figure. Fuck you, it's ugly, it's held together with tape.
It sparked that darkness.
It's
and
what
that
made
big
me a
fuck you.
supervillain.
Yeah.
Made me a supervillain, that show. The disillusionment with not getting my rewards from that effort made me a supervillain and caused me to create the bootleg enterprise, which is now the thing I'm trying to rebel against. Now I'm trying to rebel against that.
Point in history.
Now I'm trying to destroy that shit. But so thank you for that.
My pleasure, man.
Thank you for that. But things worked out great for you. You reconnected with your college sweetheart, moved to Brooklyn, got married, had kids, and your art career just took off, and you've never been the same, and you're fucking rich and happy.
I'm not rich. But
Didn't
I'm
good
working
things
on
happen to you
being
after that?
happy. Things are good, man. Yeah, things are all right.
What happened to you after that show?
Well,
Where did you go next?
I never stopped producing in all these different forms.
Don't you have like 10 books out?
3?
3 books.
Yeah, 3.
What are they about?
Subconscious Thesaurus next, my first book, self-published by me and Matt Houston, who had Houston. It's an amazing gallery in Seattle from 99 to 2001. And then he opened in Harajuku, around the corner from Recon, where Futura had his store, for another year and a half. And that was sort of a heat seeker for a lot of opportunities and relationships, And then the second book, I authored and sort of designed with Matt Houston, where I curated a book featuring 26 tattoo artists from around the world, Brooklyn and NYC heavy, because those are my homies that I really came up with, that I work with, that I got inspired by. We work together day in and day out. And those artists were multidisciplinary. They were aspiring to fine art careers, embracing and working on different projects, and they had something really progressive and inventive and sort of personal and spiritual fueling their work, and they were just the artists I chose. And that was an imprint of Rizzoli called Universe. That came out in 2010. And then that process and experience and that relationship with Rizzoli just kind of organically grew into my first monograph with them.
What's a monograph?
On single artist's book of work.
Aren't you special?
No. It's just what a monograph is, man. And that came out in 2014. And that book has had a real crazy kind of karmic culminating ripple effect because of how navigable the art direction and the design was by David Mashburn, who you know. And
He
was
wanted to
just
kill you at the end of that process, didn't he?
Well, that's a no. He didn't want to kill me at all, man.
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
You're such a dick. No, it was intense. It was a really intense journey, just like we had, man. You know.
Yeah, but like, let's be. That's amazing. That sounds like galactic shit. But you also spent a lot of years of your life in the trenches of the tattoo world.
21 years.
That's like how you made
Since 94.
That's how you made your money.
Yeah.
When you were.
That was my bread for 21 years in a central sense, and then just from how spastic and insanely obsessed I am with my own creations and my own steady process with just drawing and writing, all this other stuff just sort of it manifested through relationships and opportunities and alignments and my work just in all these different forms, and there's a lot to say.
Well, what's
you
it
know?
like being a tattoo guy?
For me,
were you? I mean,
psychologically, I've always sort of divided tattooing and other art forms, just because of my own fragility and insecurity and perception, and that's a much larger.
well, I mean,
think,
you're
interesting
covered from
conversation,
head to
but-
fucking toe in
Yeah,
tattoos.
no, I love
Why?
tattooing.
Why? Do you have tattoos on your dick?
That's a pretty
No.
crazy look.
Not at all. It just stops when it gets to your dick.
I don't have any on my
Not
dick.
even a
I like
letter?
my dick just the way it is.
Okay, but how close to your dick?
Really close, super close. It's
Well, then doesn't it
framed
look weird
around
if there
the
aren't any tattoos?
dick. No, I
around?
don't think so.
Okay.
You
Is
might.
there any space left on your body?
I have a
Dick.
few
You just hurt
my
my
dick,
ear.
my face, and a few negative spaces sort of behind my knees.
Do you have them? Do you have
'Cause
them
that's really
reserved?
gnarly.
Why don't you have any
You
face
bring the kill to
tattoos?
people to get
I
on
personally feel like, just for me, there's a line. Maybe it's because
Why?
I'm
Because I know
vain.
people with face tattoos.
I know plenty of people with face
and they
tattoos.
have
I've
a hard.
tattooed plenty of
but
people
it's-
with face.
But they've
I've
got.
tattooed
They have
plenty
their
of
own
people's
difficulties.
faces. Potentially, yeah. Yeah, sure. It's more common now than ever,
Right.
you know.
But I mean, so like, well,
That's
why?
a- that's
Why?
a-
Why do you?
Everybody
Li-
wanna
why?
get
Why did it? What motivated you to cover your entire fucking body in tattoos?
Because I've always drawn all over myself, my sister, every wall, every surface, anything remotely 3D, as we like to say back then. And tattooing as a culturally, historically, spiritually, the craft, the medium, everything presented itself sort of during that perfect karmic storm, if you will, when I got the letter from my birth mother my senior year at RISD, and it just made extraordinary sense, and it was I think that's it's just a much larger conversation.
You're
what
kind of a
tattooing
guy where like a
embodies
lot of
for
things.
me, but as an adoptee with this darkness and this amorphous unknown biology, starting to completely articulate and define and design your own physical vessel was just the thing to do for me when I got to be a certain
Really?
age.
So like, okay, so you're adopted, right? And you never
Yeah.
knew who your
I think that's a
parents
part
was.
of it. I think that's
and
a
that's
facet.
that's something.
These are seeds, man. There's
Yeah, but
much
no, but I
larger
mean, I want
conversation
to
with
analyze
every
those
awesome
things. You know, it's like you mentioned that
little
somehow there was some
question.
connection between being an adopted person. I know other adopted people, and they're all
Mm-hmm.
well-adjusted, you know, people. But there's always that weird looming question. You know,
Yes.
there's just like, and that motivates people to channel it in different ways.
Right.
And you're saying in some way that like the control you had over like, you know, your body art sort of like
that sort of married to how
self-actualizing.
strict and domineering and patriarchal and dominant and physically abusive and truly intense and complex my relationship's always been with my dad. I think it just all ended up with pain and process and ritual and just those transcendent 500 hours of experience going back to 91, and just like my homie Forrest, that was an amazing printmaker that I went to RISD with, that I decided I wanted a tattoo. I was ambivalent about it. I wasn't that punk rock kid or that metalhead that like hand poked a Misfits skull or
Yeah, but a lot
Venom
of
logo or
but
whatever.
a lot of people do that. Get
Of
like
course,
one or
and
two
I love
tattoos
that,
or
but
like
I
whatever, and you
wasn't
just
that
kept
kid.
fucking going, and you made
I
a
did.
career out of it.
I did. Well, that a lot of things aligned. It was
And
a-
that's because you were
it
adopted.
was no. I'm saying that I think the earliest wound being the truth of the adoption started a certain level of trauma and complexity that led to a craft and art form that's sort of equally complex and has...
That involves pain? Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
I think it's a big part of it.
Really?
Yeah.
What's it say in the neck?
Infinite Passion that I got in '95, all about tattooing and passion.
You also
about
have a
my
Slayer
artwork.
tattoo?
No, it's Sayer. That's my son's name. And I always joke that my homie Mike Giant,
But it's in the
who's
Slayer
a legendary artist, graffiti artist, who I love and is a huge inspiration, that I just caught timing wise, did both my kids' names on my neck, and I could not.
I can't
resist
believe
the
you
Slayer-
had that space available at that late in the game.
Font because my son's name is Sayer Lee Sunrider. Incidentally,
Sunrider,
Nomi
that's like a Star
Sunrider
Warsy name.
is a lesser-known female badass Jedi.
Really?
In the extended Clone
Sunrider
Wars,
is kind of like a
Timothy-
riff on Star Killer or Skywalker.
Yeah, but Sunrider's
it's great.
good.
Sunrider's a great name.
Fell in love with it. So illustratable.
That's definitely
So,
one of the
well, let
coolest
me-
neck tats I've ever seen.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
I mean,
Thank
I
you.
also think, and probably in some ways, a lot of, just to say, like, you know, like your adoption story has parallels in Star Wars too, because
Yes.
like I think that's one of the reasons why
It was the age my parents told me I was adopted.
right, and then suddenly like you have this, now you're aware that you have this other history, and you don't really know what it is, but you know that there's something out there.
And I didn't know a thing till 23 years,
Yeah,
5
but
months,
here's the
19
thing. Now,
days
let's
later.
just
Star
as
Wars
an
was
int-
77.
I know, but I'm just saying that's possibly
dude,
one of the
but
reasons.
more, I'm just sharing that that's the summer my parents told me that I came from another woman's body. And I was like, what the fuck is that?
Really, that late?
How did that happen? Fuck. You know? And then Star Wars, just that convergence, man, that alignment of that larger mythological hero's journey as a filmic and literary genre that you and I are so moved and inspired by and have been bugging out on for so long as artists.
And there's no end in sight.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, it just resonated that much more deeply. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you always wanted.
I was that farm boy.
You're one of those type of guys where like you had these convergences, like, you know, or like that's an example of, you know, you got told about your you know, your adoption scenario the same year Star Wars come out.
Right.
Same year you did your show at A-Life was the year that you connected with your wife
True.
and moved to New York. So it's just like, yeah, so
A wife. Oh,
yeah, your A wife.
Snap.
Okay, so
Clever.
Nice
but that's the but there's more to the story because you
Sure.
actually have kind of a very fascinating tale about how you actually found your original parents over the course of your adult life. Right? What
Yeah,
did
man.
that happen?
Sure. I
Were they
got
artists?
What's that?
Were they artists?
My birth mother, who I got a letter from my senior year at RISD, and
Out
we
of the
met
blue.
that weekend. She
Were
was
you
on
looking
6th
for her?
Avenue in between
Were you
Bleecker and
looking for
Houston,
her?
all through the 70s and 80s. Through the 70s and 80s, yeah. And I was raised just geographically, it's sort of logical in a way, all these
Wait,
women in
were
the
you-
60s
were
in
you-
the suburbs in New York. And what?
Were you looking for her?
No, I got a letter
You
from
just
her.
got a letter out of the blue saying I'm your mother.
Mm-hmm.
When you were 23.
23, 5 months, 19
Why?
days.
What did she say, and why did she contact you?
And how did she find you?
It's a whole other story.
Make it brief.
I'll try. It's hard. You know, I'm such a concise
Yeah,
dude.
you're doing
It's,
really good actually.
Thank you, man, because I
You
could
have a
talk to you all night.
you can be meandering, but you're great tonight.
Thank you. I'm trying. I'm really
Okay.
trying. I'm stoked to be here. I'm honored to be here. I miss you.
Yeah,
It's hard to be concise. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle.
I think we're doing fine. Go
Good.
on.
There was a. Okay, so my mother Kathy, who was a hospital nurse, had a few miscarriages and decided she was ready to adopt. There was this Sri Lankan doctor at Phelps Memorial Hospital in Terrytown, about an hour north where I was born, that was good friends with my mom, loved her. They had a nice relationship. Knew she was willing to adopt. And Mary, my birth mother, worked at the hospital at the same time, so that aligned. And a private adoption was arranged. And my birth mother and my raised mother, Kathy, with me as the boy, the little Moses in the basket kind of like, taken in by the village, if you will. I remained central to it all chronologically. And Dr. Arndt kept a steady parallel correspondence with both Mary and my mother my whole life.
Unbeknownst to
You should
anyone.
see he's riding a BMX bike. He's going to crack his head open every time. He's a maniac.
So your birth mom was updated on your status the whole time.
Steadily.
Interesting.
Unbeknownst to me, until I met my birth mother 23 years later, and then we're hanging out. She's coming to RISD, meeting my professors. I'm coming to visit her above Bar PT on 6th Avenue between Bleecker and Houston. I hoped I was some sort of soulful, interesting, weirdo city kid, but I had no fucking idea. I was like, am I Chinese? Am I Native American in 8th grade? I got the tail and the blowback and the Tigres and the Lees and the hip hop and right? Like, what the fuck is happening, So cut to this part of the story, or the chase, if you will. They kept in touch. Mary got to know that I was really passionate about my roots. I really wanted to know her in any way, shape, or form. And my parents thought, and this is all retrospective information, right? That just kind of unfolded once we met. And that's a rich part of the story that sort of marries it with its prehistory,
Did your adoptive parents didn't want you to meet her, or didn't think it was a good idea?
That's it, man. That's what happened. Basically, when I was 18, it was agreed between Dr. Arndt and my parents, with Mary just wanting to know me so badly. It was agreed that I'd get her information and an arrangement would be made, and it'd be like this blind date. Like, let's meet your birth mother, And my dad was threatened, and it was way too emotional for him, and he basically backed out and said, no way. Old school patriarchal Italian, I'm the son he gets, that's the deck of cards. Like, what the I can't do this. I get what it'll embody for him, but I can't go there. He just, cold feet, backed out. Same thing, 21st birthday. Now, I fucked up at Southern Connecticut.
And meanwhile, you have no idea any of this is going on.
I have unbeknownst to me, all of it. It's like a whole other dimension.
These conversations are happening, and you're just going along.
I'm only able to speak about it because I've known her almost as long as I haven't now, and these are the stories I was told when everybody met.
Okay.
But so happened again on my 21st birthday. My dad backed out. Mary, my birth mother, who was 19.
When you were born.
I was conceived in Washington Square Park in 1969 during a violent thunderstorm. So the story goes, like millions of other.
And it was just wasn't this like a one night stand too? Wasn't it?
The late 60s. What's that?
Wasn't it kind of like a one night
stand? They were together
stand
for
or
a few
fling?
weeks. He was like an oddball, unformed Russian Jew who grew up on Hooper Street and then moved all over.
And just happened to have a couple of weeks.
I found him when I was 39.
Mary from the park.
Yeah, exactly.
And knocked her up and then kept it moving.
Yeah, dude, that's exactly what happened. He dropped out of UCLA in '68, got another woman pregnant, give her a baby.
Okay, but okay,
that's a whole other story.
But the thing is, all right, finish with the Mary story.
Oh
Because
yeah, I'm trying. So Mary's getting all this information. My biological son wants to know me. How do I do this? Well, she's a poet. She's an amazing writer. She's a social worker. She's lesbian, Buddhist, spiritual, theater trained, fucking feminist, radical poet, spirit woman, right? That I love so dearly, and I see her every month and a half because she comes.
All right, get to the point.
Sorry. So, I was hoping we wouldn't go there. I'm trying to come full circle. So,
I feel ya.
Cool, thanks, man.
Sorry.
It's heavy. It's all right. We got a lot of other
Come
stuff
on,
to
I need
cover.
material for my show. Spit it out.
I'm working. Okay.
Nice.
She wrote a few drafts, got one right, sent me a letter. I was blown
Directly.
away directly to my mailbox at RISD, and I was on her doorstep within 2 days because I drove from Providence at 120 miles an hour, and we met, and it changed my life forever.
So she circumvented that whole conversation with the doctor and your parents and just said, fuck it.
She just took a risk and sent the letter because she knew I wanted to know her.
Okay. And that worked out fine.
It did.
So now you have another mom.
Yes.
And you managed to make all that work with your existing family.
It was complex and crazy emotional to juggle it all. And it's still contentious and emotional because Mary and my parents that raised me Like, they think she's wacky because she's late all the time, not because she's a radical feminist, lesbian, social worker, Buddhist, weed smoker who has a private practice in Maine. You know?
Yeah, but didn't you? And then didn't even after that you found your father too?
4 days before my 39th birthday.
This
on
was like
103rd Avenue and West End.
Everything in New York.
Yeah. All through this.
So wait a minute. So how did he come in? How did he come into the picture?
It was time. I hired
was there
a private investigator.
Oh, so there was an effort to find him.
With support and sort of the impetus, you know, and the
whose
the
idea
interest.
was that?
It was always mine, but my wife Az and my birth mother were like, "It's time for you to know this guy. You need to know who the Dark Father, Darth Vader, in this equation story really is." And we found him within a couple of days.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
And what was that like for him and you?
Well, Mary's the gift of my life, as I like to say, and as good as he and I are now, he's a darker, unformed, much more fucked up character who couldn't really handle our reunion. And then my daughter was born at the same time, and then she had 2 brain surgeries, and you remember all that complexity and how heavy that was. He was really selfish and a total prick about that timing, and he just didn't have any experience to process any of this. And I just showed up 39 years later, like, I'm that dude in Washington Square Park, man.
Did he even know that he had gotten Mary pregnant?
He remembered. You know, it took him a while to remember it.
I mean, but the thing is, I've seen him at some of your art shows and your events. I mean, you have a relationship.
And I've always been really open to him in my life. It took him a while to get all the vibes and all the treatment and all his shit right with our new thing, you know, which I was always empathic towards and understood.
You talk to him? You still talk to him?
Yeah. He just wants to hang out and be with the kids every month and a half.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting. So you have 4 parents.
I do. Quarters, man.
Huh.
And how do your kids interact with your birth parents?
It's a good question. In a really unconditional, even, steady way,
Right.
with all the grandparents,
That's
because
it, yeah.
that's all they know.
I have
that's a
extra
positive thing.
grandparents
Ah.
because on my mom's side, my parents divorced and they got remarried, both of them. And I feel that, like, there's not really a difference. I can't distinct between, like, the ones, but I guess technically I'm not blood related to the ones I am. So, like, I get what you're saying there.
Cool.
Yeah, it's an unusual arrangement, and like, has that affected your work in any way?
Look at him ask that question that he knows he's supposed to ask.
Yes, very much so. I started illustrating it all as soon as I got that letter from Mary, because I had just this really unique, rare perspective and experience that I had to give visual life to, and it became what was autobiographical in my work. I think became really central and got really vivid because I had it. It was clear, you know.
God,
It was, as you said, toyetic. It's like I could. Everything was conducive to iconography and visual language and vocabulary and narrative and storytelling, and I finally had my own story that could kind of crystallize all this other crazy creative shit that was always.
It is kind of Star Wars-y in a
unfolding.
sort of real world, more sort of pedestrian sense, where
Yeah.
just like this,
It
there
was.
is some sort of, the circle is now complete, you know, or just like these unanswered questions get resolved, and not everybody gets to have these experiences, you know, and it's just like for you to be able to have them, for you to be a very articulate artist that's able to actually
Thank you.
take these things and draw upon the symbols, you know, that surrounds you, and actually transform them and apply them to, like, you know, telling your own personal, you know, story about this kind of shit. That's pretty fucking great.
Thank you, man.
So what is your work now then? What are you doing? What's your
good
shit?
question.
What's your shit about?
I just had a really sweaty, productive day in the studio. I have a Dumbo studio that I've had since June. I haven't tattooed all summer. I just launched a kids' clothing collection. Got a lot of cool projects.
Aren't you like kind of like under the thrall of Comme des Garçons or something like that? Aren't you like, don't they own you now or something like that?
Not at all, man. But it was quite a year. It was 2015. Ray Kawakubo from Comme des Garçons got a copy of the book that you contributed an amazing essay to.
And what did I get for that?
What did you get for that? You had nothing to do with it.
It's about you.
It's his show. I love this.
For now.
Basically, the Home Plus Autumn Winter 15-16 Un Plume, which means the most inventive and creative and sort of narrative and daring collection of theirs that comes out every year, was heavily informed, conceptually, symbolically, aesthetically by 22 pages of that book.
So they took 22 pages of your book and made like a print of it, and
all
then
over
just made a
prints,
zillion
30,
fucking weird avant-garde dresses and shit out of it.
All men's.
All men's
35 out of 40 looks were just covered in my work
Did
translated.
that shit sell well?
It did really well. man.
Really?
Yeah, people loved it.
Well, I'll be damned.
Yeah, I was stoked.
Did you get paid?
I did.
Really? How'd that feel? Was that the best check you ever got in your life?
No, but it was the most affirming, highest level project collaboration, affirmation, acknowledgement, kind of contexts, to date for sure. It was a really amazing year, man. But I mean, the money came and went really fast. It was just more about like that feather of those colors and those associations in my cap, and I was honored, and I love what she did with my work. And the coolest part about that project was it was so laissez-faire. I had nothing to do with it. She got a copy of the book. I was told they were thrilled to partner with me. I had meetings with Adrian Jaffe,
And they just like licensed it off
the
of
president
you?
of Comme des Garçons, who I met with a few times. Essentially, in a way, yeah. There was sort of a fee paid for each image they chose. And it came down the runway when I was incidentally lecturing and giving a presentation at RISD, where I went to art school in the early 90s. My friend is teaching there now, who actually got me into tattooing in the early 90s. Same dude, really dear homie of mine. I was lecturing and giving a presentation in front of like 15 wildly diverse, talented freshmen, and I'm like, guys, I did a collection with Comme des Garçons, but it's not really official. It's not co-branded. It's not JK5 and Comme des Garçons. I'm just like,
so they
the
just
color of the sky or that flower or that.
So they didn't put
painter,
your
that
name on. They didn't put your
that-
name on it.
No, not at all, man.
How'd that make you feel?
It was cool. It was all right. I wasn't expecting it. It's
Did you
just
fit all
I couldn't say no.
the clothes in your size?
He got
It's all
PAID.
Japanese, man. It's tiny stuff.
Yeah,
I got some
yeah.
cool shit from my archives, and I would never wear because I think that's corny, personally. But it was beautiful. They were beautiful garments, and
You get to put that on your resume, right?
yes, of
What
course.
were those?
Well, when it was happening, they're like, "Are you Joseph Arieloi? Are you JK5?" I'm like, both. It depends. I have lots of different names. They're like, because people are going to want to know whose work this is, and the response was profound and overwhelming and exciting and like.
Do you not use JK5 anymore?
I use JK5, of course. My
Because
kids
your
call me that
your
now.
Instagram isn't JK5.
No, I know
Your
it's Joseph
kids
Arieloi.
call you Jake.
They do.
That's
my
so good.
my kids are into the fact that I have this alias. That's an acronym. That's a tag.
What does it
that's
mean?
Just Create, Jedi Knight, 5 Buddhist Elements, Nickel Bag, lots of things.
Got it.
See, you told me to stop calling him the Suckler. Like, don't give him that. But I feel sort of the same way that I guess potentially your kids do about.
They call me a million forms of daddy, and they call me JK5.
I'm sure you also call him a million forms of daddy, no?
Just one.
Just one.
You better
That's awesome.
you better pace yourself if Billions McMillions is on his way.
Don't worry, I can handle him.
This is good though, man.
Yeah, that's interesting shit.
So that was a cool project.
So what are you gonna do now? Now that all the great
Now I'm working
shit
on
has
big
already
paintings.
happened, what's
Now I'm
gonna
working on
happen?
big paintings for shows and some new collaborative projects, and really trying to shift where my love and time and energy
Are you
goes
trying to
away
never
from tattooing.
ever again?
If the bread is there, I could do
You
that.
did this. You touched this.
I
up. It looks like
re-outlined
shit
it.
now. It looks.
I re-outlined
just-
it, yeah.
went to hell again.
It's all right.
13 years ago.
I have
It's
a
all right,
question.
man.
As a tattoo artist, is there anything to be done for that, or is that
I re-outlined it a long time ago. He just needs to redo the whole thing.
Can
if he
you do
wants
that?
To. Sure.
How?
You just do it over like it's a new tattoo. You re-outline what's there, kind of sculpt and calligraph the lines because they're all fuzzy.
You can
and
put the
blown
green and the
out.
purple back
You
on
could,
top of the
sure.
black.
Yeah, I can't, but
I'm not asking
someone
you to
can.
do it.
Someone can.
I'm sure you're
Just kidding.
capable of it.
Yeah, well, sure.
But you just like don't want to help your friend out.
No, I totally. If you wanted to, we could do it.
I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't trouble you. I wouldn't trouble you. I wouldn't want to bother you because you're doing
I'd
such
rather
big
hang out.
things.
No, stop with the big
Really?
things. I'd rather just fucking.
You're not
kick
doing
it.
big things. you're so far from where you want to be, aren't you?
I'm always far from where I want to be, but that doesn't mean I'm not in a solid radiating place where I'm just creating and my work is manifesting in all these different forms and things are evolving. Yeah. I left the studio today. I'm stoked to share this shit with you. I'm deconstructing the original Star Wars logo and its letter forms, and the only forms I'm using are the negative space around it, but I'm fucking it up and dissolving it all.
That
and
makes
then
any sense.
reassimilating it all. You'll see, it makes sense. It's basically like an abstract deconstruction of the Star Wars logo that's just remixed in all these manual organic ways, and then I'm making big paintings of those. And I've got lots of studies of drawings that are just going to translate to hopefully 20 or 30, at least 5 by 5 foot paintings.
The way you explain it, I can't really picture it, but...
Well, imagine if you got the word...
Take the Star Wars logo, right? The distinct qualities of that S and the way the T's are connected.
And there's that little triangle in the A,
in
and that space between the S and the T.
And I'm taking
You're
all
fucking
those
with that
shapes.
shit?
I'm fucking with that shit.
You're
it's
a weirdo.
Steady Star Wars. But what I'm excited about is, and I'm synthesizing it with other things and other iconography, but what I'm excited about is that, and you know this so deeply and clearly, and Bill's a huge inspiration. He's coming on next. There's such a patient... I'm not patient. I'm a spaz. I'm all over the place. But you and Bill are really inspiring because of your steadfastness of content that is the woven thread from our childhood. So at this point, I'm super inspired by all kinds of weird, interesting painters and filmmakers and sculptors, and I'm just doing my thing.
But you always
with
bring
this
it back
whole
to
new
Star
wave.
Wars, though.
In more and more and more encrypted and abstracted ways, yes.
But isn't that weird how Star
In a
Wars
contem-
plays in one's life? You know, how it's
I don't
just...
see it any different than the Sacred Heart of Jesus or the Crucifixion or what Jeff Koons does with the balloon animal or a million other examples of how things get appropriated in contemporary art.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know, because it's like Star Wars is different in a way because of the mythic qualities to it.
Yeah.
And how people of our generation have sort of joined our lives, or made our lives, whether by our own choice or just by circumstance, to have the certain same mythical qualities, and just how the actual source material of Star Wars isn't just present in its literal form all the time. It comes and goes, but just as an abstract influence, it's always somewhere in your life, whether it's your design choices, whether you're even conscious of it, or just the way you're telling yourself your own story about yourself.
Beautifully put.
Yes, I know. It always somehow,
put.
it's just always sort of
You're an articulate
waving
motherfucker,
into
by
the
the way.
tapestry. It's like
Yeah.
there's no way to undo it. That's why
I don't
Jerry
want to.
Saltz destroyed me.
Oh yeah.
Because he told me no Star Wars, and you can't tell somebody like me no Star Wars because it's woven into my physical DNA.
I respect Jerry Saltz, but fuck that statement.
We've
He
been
wanted.
doing some Jerry Saltz activity recently.
Have we now?
It's your idea.
I know, but I want to hear you say it.
Then
Have you been
tell it.
sexting with Jerry
We've been
Saltz?
sending nudes
Can
to
I get another
Jerry
beer?
Saltz. He's responded once or twice. It's over Instagram.
He's responded.
Via his account. He called me strong and then sent me some emojis, actually.
Wow.
So Jerry Saltz, if you're listening, when you gonna hit me up again?
Thanks. Jerry Saltz is not listening to the show, but
Oh.
Thanks, man.
I've been noticing he's been putting a lot of sex shit on his Instagram. You follow him?
I
So-
don't.
It's great shit. I mean, he's just like all kinds of sex shit from
Peripherally, I have and
from
do,
like
but I
medieval
don't
paintings
actual
or whatever to like 80s punk shit and just like all kinds of fucking sex shit. So he's horny. So
So he sent me out. as
yeah,
he
so I
often does,
deployed
do
you
his
to
bidding.
like fuck with him. I would love to have him on the show.
I just hope he wears his toggle sweater.
I don't know. We're gonna have a big Star Wars suck off coming up. You guys are gonna really hate it. You're gonna hate. You're gonna hate every
Are you
minute.
really gonna hate it?
No.
She's
let's
not
do
of
it.
the Star Wars
Wait, why are we gonna hate it?
because you don't like Star Wars.
You don't like Star Wars, you just don't care about Star Wars.
No, that was the stupidest thing that he ever said. I love Star Wars. It's just,
Oh.
I don't know what made you think I don't like Star Wars.
Just to listen to 40-year-old men talk about Star Wars for an hour, that wouldn't annoy you?
I've done it already.
Okay,
One of my
yeah,
best
you
friends-
have.
We've done this.
Wait, we all do
Even when
this.
I'm not
I
on the
know
show,
you.
my
But
friends
you
are
don't
all-
like it.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, good.
I'm not. If you're talking about Star Trek, fuck that movie.
Yeah, I can't go on about Star Trek the way. What we're gonna get it deeper into this later, but what are there design elements from the episode 7 that are finding their way into your work?
As soon as I saw the trailer, yeah.
Yeah, so you use a lot of Kylo shit.
Kylo shit. A little bit of his cross lightsaber, BB-8, the number 7.
The number 7's major.
My daughter loves Rey so much, so that's in there.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that really important?
What?
Isn't that important? Like there aren't that many quality heroines in contemporary.
It's Vio's and May. I was fucking psyched. Female lead.
No makeup.
Disney.
Not sexified in any way.
She's a cutie, but
yeah, she's cute, but she's not sexualized.
Right, true.
Rey, the principal, the main character, she's not sexualized at all. There's no romantic story at all.
Right.
And she's the one that has the quest.
Very much.
But it's like you don't really see in these movies like a female having the quest. It's always the man has the quest, and the female is like the reward for achieving it. Yep. And so having a female, I think, is great, and also having a black man. Somebody made this weird comparison about, I think it was Tom or Healy, about how contemporary it was. It was just like, Finn is Obama, and he has the lightsaber. And like he didn't really do anything, but he kept them at bay, and then he gives the lightsaber to Hillary, and she's the one that actually sets the Empire back.
That's funny.
I mean, I don't. That's just an extrapolation.
Sure.
But I mean, it works.
It's someone connecting those dots.
I think it was so wise the way they chose the configuration of the principals, and that having a black man and a woman and a Spanish guy.
77 white boy. Now.
But they just seem to know like just what the times called for. That's why I'm totally fine with Disney taking that shit over. I love George Lucas. I will never criticize him, but it's just like there's only so much like one man can do. When you've created something so relevant and so unwieldy, that's so.
It was time, man. Between J.J. Abrams and Disney, I thought it was I
thought they did a fine job.
A really smart call. Yeah, young visionary Hollywood director. And then all that Disney embodies from its inception.
This will begin to make things right. All right, so we are getting close to the finish of this enterprise here. You did very good.
Thank you,
Joey. Man. You're one of my favorite people, one of my best friends, even though we don't hang out that much.
I feel the same way,
it's
man.
Like it's worked out great. Yeah, we probably won't, but it's
we'll try.
It's
we'll make valiant efforts.
It's all good. Is there anything you want to add to this? This is your moment to plug yourself.
I will answer whatever other questions you have, but I think.
You think you're satisfied? Okay,
and we can talk forever.
We're going to talk for another hour about Star Wars when Bill gets here.
But if you have any other questions about non-Star Wars related, now's the time.
Well, there's things I do want to talk to you about, but I don't know if we should get into them.
You can ask a question, man.
What's up with the stocking shit? You have this weird proclivity of like jerking off to images of women with like a pantyhose over their head.
Not just that,
but
I'm a 70s kid, man. That's where it all began. I was
What's your porn thing? What's your porn
all
thing?
All those fetishes started. Dominant, submissive dynamics, accessories, textures, all senses being involved.
Are you more of a dom or a sub?
I like both. I like the whole
You're
spectrum.
a switcher, aren't you?
Hey,
between
Suckload.
dom and sub, yeah.
Do you have my collar?
Yeah.
Is it here?
Yeah.
Can I wear it?
Now?
Yeah.
What do you want?
The collar. Please.
Please who?
Please, Daddy.
Woo! Stunner!
We bought this collar at the Pink Pussycat, which is where my mom used to sell her nipple clamps back in the day.
And your dad invented those nipple clamps, right?
Well, my mom conceptualized them, but my father helped. My father engineered.
He produced the prototypes? I never got the full story, man. It's fascinating.
Well, you should have watched the episode, but there was in short, there was a need. There was a need for high quality adjustable nipple clamps.
Right.
A lot of the nipple torture devices that were available on the market in the mid 70s were kind of fly by night, kind of shoddy affairs. And my mom realized that there was a market there, but accidentally, and she realized that there was a place for high quality stuff, and she understood the S&M psychology, and just wanted to make a high quality item, but she wasn't a technical person, but my father was. He didn't understand any of the S&M thing.
So it was complimentary in that sense.
Yeah, she was like, you either we covered this on the show. She's like, you either pay child support or you help me design this fucking thing. So that was his answer. So
wow.
So yeah, so that's
a
so
crazy
that's how it came
story.
about. And then we went on a hunt because you wanted a collar, and you wanted a pink collar, and we went to all the leather stores on Christopher Street and all over the
They were
place,
all so tacky. All the
or
way
just
to the other
black.
place.
And then
So
we
black.
found one at the pleasure chest. It wasn't the
wasn't
it was
the
the
pink
it was the
pussy
pleasure chest. We got that at the
You got
pleasure
your
chest.
The pleasure
Butt
chest.
thing at the pleasure.
Yeah, I got my butt toy at the Pink Pussycat. Okay. Thank you, Meg, the trivia girl, for getting the facts straight. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching the Super Suck Hour. We had a great fucking time in this hot, musty-ass studio. Stay tuned for another thrilling episode. My name is the Super Sucklord. You can find us on all the social medias. I don't need to list it all. JK5 at Joseph Aloy on Instagram and Facebook and all that other bullshit. Great to have you. We're going to see you in
Thank
the
you
next
so much,
episode.
honey.
J-Corp, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Meg Spector now in the big time, and Nasty Neil stunting on him. You ready to do some work?
Not really.
Well, you're gonna have to. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week. Peace out.